Life in suburban Meadow Creek estates wasn't exactly a thrill a minute. Manicured lawns, identical beige houses, and the constant, watchful eye of the homeowners association, it was the epitome of mundane. But beneath the surface of perfectly trimmed hedges and color-coordinated mailboxes lurked a simmering tension, a quiet war waged over the minutiae of daily living. And at the heart of that conflict stood Karen. Ah, Karen. The name alone conjured images of meticulously highlighted rulebooks, passive-aggressive neighborhood emails, and an unwavering belief in her own self-appointed authority. She was the HOA's self-proclaimed enforcer, the neighborhood busybody, the queen of complaints. Her reign of terror, okay, maybe that's a bit dramatic, but it certainly felt that way sometimes, extended to everything from the length of my grass, apparently 2.75 inches was unacceptable, it had to be precisely 2.5, to the color of my trash cans, apparently, charcoal gray clashed with the community aesthetic. Little did I know that Karen's obsession with control was about to take a turn for the truly bizarre, a leap from petty tyranny to outright criminal behavior. See, Meadow Creek Estates had also been experiencing a rash of car thefts. The local police, overwhelmed and understaffed, decided to try something new, bait cars. And, with my enthusiastic, and slightly mischievous, consent, my perfectly ordinary, slightly dented Honda Civic became one of them. I figured it was a win-win. I helped the cops, and maybe, just maybe, someone would finally stop dinging my car in the parking lot. I never imagined that the someone who would take my car would be wearing capri pants and wielding an HOA rulebook like a weapon. But trust me, folks, reality is often stranger, and far more hilarious, than fiction. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before the break-in, before the sirens, before the sheer, unadulterated joy of watching Karen get hauled away in handcuffs, there were the emails. Oh, the emails. Subject lines like, urgent, violation of Section 3. 2B regarding petunia placement, or, immediate action required, unapproved holiday decorations. My inbox was a daily testament to Karen's unwavering commitment to enforcing the HOA's ridiculously specific rules. It wasn't just the emails, though. There were the formal notices, delivered with the solemnity of a royal decree, citing offenses I didn't even know existed. Apparently, the angle at which I parked my car in my own driveway was non-compliant with some obscure architectural guideline. And then there was the incident with the inflatable flamingo. I mean, come on, who doesn't love an inflatable flamingo? But according to Karen, it was a detriment to property values and a blight on the community landscape. She even presented photographic evidence to the HOA board, which, to their credit, mostly rolled their eyes but still sent me a warning. The worst part was, she seemed to genuinely believe she was doing good. In her mind, she was a guardian of order, a protector of property values, a champion of suburban harmony. She was saving us all from the chaos of slightly overgrown lawns and cheerfully tacky lawn ornaments. And, if I'm being honest, a small part of me almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then she'd send another email complaining about the way I sorted my recycling, and the sympathy would vanish faster than you can say, HOA violation. It was a constant barrage of petty grievances, a relentless campaign of suburban microaggression. And it was all building up to something truly spectacular. Now, about this bait car situation. You might be wondering, why me? Why would I volunteer my imperfectly, functional Honda Civic to be a pawn in the local police department's anti-theft scheme? Well, besides the aforementioned parking lot dings, seriously, people, learn to parallel park, there was a growing sense of unease in the neighborhood. Cars were disappearing left and right, and the police seemed stumped. When Detective Miller approached me with the bait car proposal, I was hesitant at first. I mean, it's my car. What if it got trashed? What if it ended up in a high-speed chase, riddled with bullet holes? But Detective Miller assured me that the technology was top-notch. The car could be remotely disabled, doors locked, and GPS tracked the moment it was stolen. Plus, he offered me a free car wash every week for a month. I'm a sucker for a clean car. The installation process was surprisingly quick and discreet. They replaced the stereo with a sophisticated tracking system, installed a remote kill switch, and even added a hidden camera. The best part? It all looked completely normal. To the casual observer, or, say, a nosy HOA president, it was just my regular, slightly beat-up Civic. Detective Miller emphasized the importance of acting natural. Park the car in my usual spot, leave the keys in a hidden, but accessible, location, and basically just go about my daily life. The idea was to make it as easy as possible for a thief to take the bait. Little did we know, the thief wouldn't be some hardened criminal, but a middle-aged woman with a penchant for power and a deep-seated hatred of inflatable lawn ornaments. The stage was set. The bait was laid. And Karen was about to take the plunge. The morning it happened started like any other. I woke up, made some coffee, and braced myself for the inevitable HOA email. Surprisingly, the inbox was empty. A momentary reprieve, I thought, before the storm. I headed out to the garage to grab my bike for a quick ride. That's when I saw it. The garage door was ajar, slightly crooked, like a drunken smile. My stomach dropped. I cautiously pushed the door open further, my heart pounding in my chest. The space where my trusty Civic usually sat was empty. Gone. Vanished. My initial reaction was disbelief. Had I parked it somewhere else? Was I losing my mind? Then, the reality hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd been robbed. Someone had broken into my garage and stolen my car. Anger surged through me, a potent cocktail of violation and disbelief. This wasn't some petty HOA squabble, this was a crime. My safe, predictable suburban life had been shattered. I ran back inside, adrenaline pumping. I frantically searched for my phone, my hands shaking. Dialing 911, I stammered out my address and the fact that my car had been stolen. The dispatcher, bless her patient soul, calmly took down the details. As I waited for the police to arrive, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a random act of theft. Someone had targeted me, specifically. And I had a sinking suspicion I knew who. The HOA wars had officially escalated. This wasn't about lawn height or trash can colors anymore. This was personal. Thankfully, I had installed a security camera system a few months prior, mostly to keep an eye on porch pirates and rogue squirrels. I never imagined it would capture something quite this spectacular. After hanging up with the 911 dispatcher, I raced to my computer, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I pulled up the security footage from the previous night, my heart pounding with anticipation and dread. The grainy images flickered on the screen, showing the quiet, suburban street bathed in the soft glow of the streetlights. Then, at approximately 2:17 a.m., a figure emerged from the shadows. At first, it was difficult to make out any details. But as the figure approached my garage, the camera zoomed in, revealing Karen. There she was, in all her capri pants and sensible shoes glory, armed with what appeared to be a crowbar. She carefully, almost methodically, pried open the garage door, wincing slightly with each creak and groan. Once the door was open enough, she slipped inside, disappearing from view for a few agonizing minutes. Then, she reappeared, backing my Civic out of the garage with a surprising degree of competence. She hopped in, adjusted the rearview mirror, probably to check her hair, and drove off into the night. The sheer audacity of it all was breathtaking. I watched the footage again and again, each time more dumbfounded than the last. It was Karen. It was definitely Karen. And she had just stolen my car. The HOA feud had reached a new level of crazy, a level I never thought possible. This wasn't just a violation of my property, it was a personal betrayal. And I was about to make sure she paid for it. When the police finally arrived, I was practically vibrating with a mixture of anger and barely contained glee. I couldn't wait to show them the security footage. The two officers, a young woman and a slightly older man with a weary expression, listened patiently as I recounted the events of the morning, emphasizing the garage break-in and the car theft. "And you said you have security footage of the suspect?" the older officer asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. "Absolutely," I replied, practically bouncing on the balls of my feet. "And you're not going to believe who it is." I led them inside and played the footage on my computer. As Karen's image flickered across the screen, breaking into my garage with all the grace of a caffeinated rhinoceros, the officer's jaws visibly dropped. "That's Karen Miller," the younger officer said, her eyes wide with disbelief. "From the HOA?" "The one and only," I confirmed, a triumphant grin spreading across my face. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. I explained the bait car situation, detailing my agreement with Detective Miller and the hidden technology installed in my Civic. The officers exchanged a look of stunned silence, followed by a slow, dawning realization. "Wait a minute," the older officer said, a flicker of excitement in his eyes. "You're telling me she stole a bait car?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you," I replied, unable to contain my laughter any longer. "And I have a feeling she's about to have a very bad day." The look on their faces was priceless. The shift from routine car theft investigation to potential sting operation was palpable. This was about to get very interesting. The older officer, whose name tag read Sergeant Davies, immediately got on the radio, relaying the situation to dispatch and requesting backup. The younger officer, Officer Reynolds, started peppering me with questions about the bait car technology, how it worked, what its capabilities were, and whether or not I could activate it remotely. I explained that Detective Miller had given me a special code to trigger the kill switch and tracking system. But, I added, he said to only use it when instructed to do so, to ensure a clean and safe arrest. Sergeant Davies, having finished his radio call, turned back to me, a serious expression on his face. "All right," he said. "Here's the plan. We're going to contact Detective Miller and get him up to speed. In the meantime, we'll set up a perimeter around the neighborhood and wait for instructions. This could get messy, so we need to be prepared for anything." A few tense minutes later, Detective Miller arrived, looking slightly rumpled but undeniably excited. After a quick briefing and a viewing of the security footage, he took charge of the situation. "Okay, folks," he said, rubbing his hands together. "Let's catch ourselves an HOA Karen." He contacted the department's tech team, who quickly located the stolen Civic. It was currently parked outside a local grocery store, approximately 5 miles away. Detective Miller instructed me to activate the kill switch. "But wait for my signal," he emphasized. "We want to make sure she's inside the car before we lock her down." The anticipation was almost unbearable. This was it. The moment of truth. Justice, suburban style, was about to be served. We piled into Detective Miller's unmarked car and sped towards the grocery store, sirens silent, adrenaline pumping. The tech team provided real-time updates on Karen's location, painting a picture of her mundane activities as if she were the star of some bizarre, criminal reality show. "Suspect is currently in aisle 5, browsing the organic produce," the voice crackled over the radio. "Now approaching the dairy section, selecting a carton of almond milk." Even in the midst of Grand Theft Auto, Karen couldn't resist her bougie tendencies. We arrived at the grocery store and positioned ourselves strategically in the parking lot, waiting for Karen to emerge. Detective Miller kept his eyes glued to his phone, tracking her every move. Finally, the moment arrived. "Suspect is exiting the store," the tech team announced. Approaching the vehicle, entering the driver's seat. Detective Miller gave me the signal. My heart pounding, I entered the code into my phone. A silent command, a digital trap sprung. "Now." Detective Miller yelled, and a swarm of police vehicles descended upon the parking lot, lights flashing, sirens blaring. It was a scene straight out of a Hollywood movie, except instead of hardened criminals, the target was a middle-aged woman in capri pants clutching a bag of organic groceries. The tech team remotely locked the car doors, trapping Karen inside. She was completely surrounded, utterly bewildered, and about to have the worst grocery shopping trip of her life. The scene that followed was pure comedic gold. As the officers approached the car, guns drawn, perhaps a tad excessive, but who was I to judge? Karen's face cycled through a range of emotions, confusion, disbelief, and finally, utter panic. "What's going on?" she shrieked, pounding on the locked windows. "There must be some mistake." Sergeant Davies approached the driver's side window, his expression stern. "Karen Miller, you're under arrest for grand theft auto." "Grand theft auto," she sputtered. But I was just getting groceries." "Open the door, Ms. Miller," Sergeant Davies instructed, "or we'll be forced to break the window." Seeing the seriousness in his eyes, Karen reluctantly complied. As she stepped out of the car, hands raised in surrender, she launched into a rambling explanation. "This is all a misunderstanding. I thought the car belonged to the HOA. It was parked illegally, you see, blocking the designated fire lane. I was just relocating it to a more appropriate spot." The officers exchanged knowing glances. "And breaking into the garage was also part of your relocation plan, Ms. Miller?" Officer Reynolds asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. Karen's face flushed a deep shade of crimson. "Well, I had to gain access. It was an emergency." As they led her away in handcuffs, grocery bags dangling precariously from her arms, she continued to protest her innocence. "This is outrageous. I'm a pillar of this community. I'll be filing a formal complaint with the HOA. You haven't heard the last of this." Even in the face of arrest, Karen couldn't resist asserting her self-proclaimed authority. It was truly a sight to behold. The aftermath was chaotic, to say the least. News of Karen's arrest spread through Meadow Creek Estates like wildfire. The HOA board, already reeling from the security footage I'd provided, swiftly convened an emergency meeting. The result? Karen was immediately suspended from all HOA duties, pending further investigation. I imagine the vote was unanimous. The legal repercussions were, of course, far more serious. Grand theft auto, breaking and entering, and possibly even resisting arrest. Given her spirited protests, Karen was facing some serious jail time. I cooperated fully with the police investigation, providing them with copies of the security footage and a detailed account of my interactions with Karen. But the most interesting part was the neighborhood's reaction. At first, there was disbelief. "Karen? Steal a car? No way." But as the news sunk in, disbelief gave way to a strange mixture of schadenfreude and cautious celebration. People started whispering about their own Karen encounters, sharing stories of petty grievances and overzealous rule enforcement. It was like a collective weight had been lifted. The HOA email list, usually a battleground of passive-aggressive complaints, suddenly became a forum for cautious optimism. People started suggesting reforms, proposing more reasonable rules, and even daring to question the board's authority. It was as if Karen's reign of terror had inadvertently sparked a suburban revolution. The inflatable flamingo incident, once a source of shame, became a symbol of resistance. And me? I was suddenly a local hero, the guy who brought down the HOA tyrant with a little help from the police and a well-placed bait car. Life in Meadow Creek Estates was about to get a whole lot more interesting. The legal proceedings against Karen were a slow, agonizing dance of court dates, plea bargains, and increasingly outlandish excuses from her lawyer. She initially pleaded not guilty, clinging to her misunderstanding defense. But as the evidence mounted, the security footage, the testimony of the police officers, the sheer absurdity of the situation, her lawyer eventually convinced her to accept a plea deal. She ended up pleading guilty to a lesser charge of unlawful use of a vehicle and received a sentence of community service and a hefty fine. Meanwhile, within the HOA, Karen's downfall triggered a power vacuum. The remaining board members, previously cowed by her forceful personality, suddenly found themselves vying for control. Accusations of mismanagement and conflicts of interest flew faster than those HOA violation notices Karen used to send. There were rumors of secret alliances, backroom deals, and even a potential recall election. The HOA, once a symbol of suburban order, had devolved into a miniature version of Game of Thrones, complete with betrayals and power grabs. And then there were the lawsuits. I received a letter from Karen's lawyer threatening legal action, claiming that my participation in the bait car program had intentionally entrapped her and caused her emotional distress. I forwarded the letter to Detective Miller, who chuckled and said, "Don't worry, we'll handle it." The HOA also faced potential lawsuits from other residents who claimed they had been unfairly targeted by Karen in the past. It seemed that Karen's actions had opened a Pandora's box of legal troubles for everyone involved. The quiet suburban life we once knew was gone, replaced by a whirlwind of legal drama and HOA infighting. Despite the legal drama and HOA infighting, a strange sense of unity began to emerge within Meadow Creek Estates. Karen's actions, as bizarre and criminal as they were, had inadvertently brought the community together. Neighbors who had previously only exchanged polite nods suddenly found themselves bonding over shared Karen stories. There was Mrs. Henderson, whose prize-winning roses had been deemed too ostentatious by Karen. And Mr. Johnson, who had received a formal warning for failing to properly align his Christmas lights. And countless others who had suffered under Karen's reign of petty tyranny. These stories, once whispered in hushed tones, were now being shared openly, accompanied by laughter and a sense of collective vindication. The HOA meetings, once dreaded events, became lively forums for discussion and debate. Residents proposed new rules, challenged old regulations, and even suggested term limits for board members. The inflatable flamingo, previously banished to the depths of my garage, made a triumphant return to my front lawn, becoming a symbol of our newfound freedom. The community even organized a Karen-free block party, complete with live music, food trucks, and a surprisingly popular dunk tank featuring a cardboard cutout of Karen. It was a celebration of our liberation, a chance to let loose and enjoy the simple pleasures of suburban life without the constant fear of HOA retribution. I received countless thank you notes, phone calls, and even a few homemade cookies from grateful neighbors. I had become a symbol of hope, a champion of the underdog, the guy who stood up to the HOA bully and won. It was a far cry from my previous existence as just another anonymous resident of Meadow Creek Estates. Looking back on the whole ordeal, it's hard not to laugh at the sheer absurdity of it all. Who would have thought that a simple HOA dispute could escalate into a car theft, a police sting operation, and a full-blown suburban revolution? It's a story I'll be telling for years to come, a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of community vigilance. But beyond the humor and the drama, there are some valuable lessons to be learned. Firstly, it's a reminder that even in the most seemingly ordinary places, extraordinary things can happen. Life in suburbia may seem predictable and mundane, but beneath the surface, there's always the potential for chaos and unexpected twists. Secondly, it highlights the importance of standing up to bullies, whether they wear capri pants and wield HOA rulebooks or occupy positions of real power. Karen's reign of terror was only possible because people were afraid to challenge her authority. It took a car theft and a police sting to finally break that cycle of fear. And finally, it's a testament to the power of community. When faced with adversity, the residents of Meadow Creek Estates came together, shared their stories, and found strength in their collective experience. They transformed a moment of crisis into an opportunity for positive change, creating a more inclusive and democratic community. Plus, let's be honest, there's a certain satisfaction in seeing justice served in such an absurd and unexpected way. Watching Karen get hauled away in handcuffs, her grocery bags spilling organic produce all over the parking lot, was a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. It was a reminder that even the most self-righteous tyrants are not above the law, and that sometimes, the best revenge is a well-executed bait car sting. And so, life in Meadow Creek Estates settled into a new normal. The HOA, reformed and revitalized, became a force for good in the community. The inflatable flamingo became a permanent fixture on my front lawn, a symbol of our hard-won freedom. And I, the accidental hero, enjoyed the quiet satisfaction of knowing that I had played a small part in making our neighborhood a better place. But the story doesn't quite end there. A few weeks after Karen's sentencing, I received a handwritten letter in the mail. The return address was a local correctional facility. It was from Karen. In the letter, she claimed that she had been unfairly targeted and that the entire situation was a conspiracy orchestrated by the radical left wing of the HOA. Apparently, we had those. She vowed to appeal her conviction and promised to expose the corruption and mismanagement that plagued Meadow Creek Estates. She also included a detailed list of HOA violations she had observed during her incarceration, ranging from improper inmate uniform alterations to unauthorized use of the prison library's Wi-Fi. Even behind bars, Karen couldn't resist enforcing the rules. I chuckled and tossed the letter into the recycling bin, after carefully shredding it, of course. It seemed that even jail couldn't cure Karen of her obsession with control. And while I hoped that we had seen the last of her, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just a temporary reprieve. After all, you can take the Karen out of the HOA, but you can't take the HOA out of the Karen. And somewhere, in a prison cell filled with meticulously organized rulebooks and passive-aggressive complaints, Karen was plotting her return. The suburban drama, it seemed, was far from over. But for now, at least, we could enjoy the peace and quiet. And maybe, just maybe, finally get those Christmas lights properly aligned.